Well, guys, Attack on Titan is finally over. And if there's anything that we can take away from that god-awful garbage ending, it's that Isayama is a hack, and that animation will never be cinema. Just kidding, it's not going to be one of those videos. I just wanted to meet my yearly April Fool's quota. If you follow me for a good while, you may recall that I uploaded a video titled Why Attack on Titan Live Action is Better Than the Anime, which has got an interesting response, to say the least. Admittedly, it's not only a very dated video as it was posted in 2018, it was also kind of an unfair assessment, because how can I even make that judgment when the anime was far from being finished at that point? Obviously, I've been a fan of the live-action Attack on Titan since those movies came out, and a part of me was probably just wanting to rustle some feathers for the sake of it. But fast forward to now, and over half a decade later, how do I feel about comparing the Attack on Titan anime with its live-action counterpart? Well, let's take a look. Also, I'm not going to go super in-depth in this video, because I would like to try and do that another time. Hope you're ready, Cole.
What?
I don't think I really need to explain the plot of Attack on Titan to you guys. I'm pretty sure everyone knows it by now. But since Attack on Titan is long-form storytelling, we're gonna be here forever, so just watch my retrospective on the series. I'll finish it, I swear. In addition to all the changes and development that it's endured as the story progressed to become something that's more grand. But I do want to give props to the live-action version for staying true to what's essentially the basic premise down to its bare essentials. Mankind is nearly extinct as the result of giant monsters called Titans that have devoured most of humanity. The alleged remaining human population lives within 3 walls for years, and suddenly a colossal Titan destroys the outer wall, triggering a sequence of events that would set the protagonist Eren Yeager on a path of revenge, as his perspective on the world as a whole would change as he progresses through his journey. I mean, yeah, that's exactly what Attack on Titan is in a nutshell. Now, yes, the story in the anime is fantastic, but there are people who just can't find the time or the energy to commit to a series of Attack on Titan's length. So the movies being about 3 hours altogether is honestly a pretty good way to be exposed to some of Attack on Titan's ideas and how some of its story elements unfold, even if it isn't all of them. Obviously, with the anime being long-form media, it's gonna have the time to be more fleshed out and realized, but the straightforwardness of the live-action's high-octane nature comes off as being very effective. It doesn't sit too long on things, but it also gives itself time to breathe once in a while. I think this would make a good segue to talk about the writing of these two, because the big thing that everyone neglects when talking about the live-action films is that they were in pre-production before the female Titan was even introduced. And even when they came out, the manga wasn't finished. So there was a lot of experimentation going on with the story itself, but it's also crucial to know that a lot of these changes were not only encouraged, but enforced by Hajime Isayama himself. And some of these additions would even end up in the manga's later chapters. That said, I've heard from plenty of people that the reason that they just can't get into Attack on Titan is that the story starts to become very confusing and convoluted, so to speak. I get it, there's a lot to unpack and it can be a little hard to follow. Although considering that these two have completely different stories, there's still a lot that the movies do right. At its core, Attack on Titan is a story of how war affects people, the anger it brings, as well as what people are willing to do to achieve freedom. War is one of the absolute worst things anyone can go through, because it's hell on earth, which is perfectly conveyed by the anime, and honestly, just as well in the live action. The way the horror of the Titans, the sheer turmoil and the secrets behind the world the characters live in add to the overall stakes makes for a tense venture. But speaking of the characters, one of the biggest criticisms the live-action Attack on Titan movies received is that the characters are nothing like their original counterparts. Well, aside from really only a couple exceptions or so, all the characters in the Attack on Titan movies stick very close to who they're supposed to represent. Obviously, the characters in the anime see tons of development on the basis that the story is longer, but each character manages to nail their respective quirks and personalities, even the movie original characters. And a lot of that is thanks to just how well the cast managed to truly embody these characters. Armin is the childhood friend of Eren and Mikasa, who's physically weak, but his intelligence makes up for it. Not to mention, he also builds the courage to stand up for himself and his friends, including Eren. Mikasa is the one who's the most different from her manga counterpart, as she has this sort of disdain towards Eren in the first film, but comes out of her shell upon realizing that she truly cares for him deep down in the second. Jean starts off hot-headed and has a rivalry with Eren, but grows to accept him as his comrade. Sasha is, well, Sasha. Headstrong, lovable, funny, that's all you need. Hanji is easily ripped straight from the manga down to her mannerisms, being very over the top but also really tough. Shikishima is Zeke, which is funny because he's Zeke before Zeke was really a character. He's mysterious, but you can't help but find him sinister, which makes him all the more intriguing, and when his motivations are fully revealed, it's clear that he and Eren have a common goal, but his methods are much more violent and radical. Soda isn't just a Hana's stand-in, as his presence is very welcoming and really feels like this sort of father figure that Eren never really had. Kubal is super interesting, as he's proven himself to be ruthless as seen through his actions and won't let anything or anyone trifle with him, which is helped by the fact that he is based on Kim Jong-il. Sanagi is fun. I mean, Sanagi, like, he's almost like a caring big brother who's more than willing to put his allies before himself. But I want to dedicate some time to how this story handled Eren. As mentioned before, Eren follows a similar pattern of development as in the source material, but instead of putting himself on the path of being mankind's greatest enemy to unite everyone, this Eren ends up vowing to defend humanity no matter what. Killing innocents is completely out of the question for him, and he will fight to see what is really the best solution. He is the symbol of youthful optimism, which I find very compelling. Growing up, we blame so many things for all the bad stuff that happens in our lives, yet we hardly take the time to realize that we have the strength to truly shape our destiny and use our gifts and talents for the better. Instead of becoming so fixated on killing all the Titans because they wiped out his hometown, he realizes that fighting for the sake of vengeance won't do him any good, and that he must see the bigger picture. He can't just fight for himself, he has to fight for others, even when he's given the strength and the power that he needs to see vengeance. He must set that aside for the greater good. Basically, this is the good ending, Eren. And you know what? I love that. After all, he got to be with Mikasa and he didn't have to wipe out 80% of the human population in the end. But stepping off of that, I just want to say that there's no doubt that the work Tetsuro Araki, Masashi Koizuka, Yuichiro Hayashi, and Junichi Shido put into bringing the world of Attack on Titan into animation is astounding. Because it's such an ambitious task, and they nailed it in more ways than one. But Shinji Higuchi, having worked in animation before directing the Attack on Titan films, the way he goes about it is done in a way where the movies are fully aware of what they are and go through so many lengths to respect their roots. The way the characters are so animated makes for some engaging drama, the way the visuals are stylized makes for a unique look that isn't too distracting. All in all, it's just epic. Higuchi treated Attack on Titan with so much respect that the end result is honestly nothing short of grand. Not to mention, he had to work with so many limitations in regards to budget and resources that it's astonishing how much he was able to accomplish and succeed with a property that was considered unadaptable at the time. And when it comes to the visuals, the anime is gorgeous. There's no other way around it. Though to say that every frame of painting may be a little exaggerated, but it doesn't ruin everything. And I'd say that the same applies to these movies. When the movies look good, they look great. And whenever they don't, it's really not the worst thing in the world. The CG may be a little noticeable at times, but if you look at the CG itself, it's impressive. It's honestly amazing that they were able to make it work regardless. Hell, I mean, there are even shots in the films that don't even look like they're CG, but they are. As for the practical effects, miniatures, the suits, it's almost unbelievable how they were able to make so much of it seamless. The compositing can be absolutely insane. The look of the Titans are perfect. Easily the best take on the Titans, bar none. But what really ties the visuals together is that they truly managed to capture the manga's bleak tone. People complain that the movies are too dark looking, but there's parts that look really colorful. And these colorful moments range from being full of life to not only ran down but lived in, though all around believable. The decision to set the films in the future instead of a sort of alternate World War II era type of setting makes the atmosphere much more tangible. It's a future that may seem a little far, but it doesn't feel too far because of how much of it reflects our own reality visually, artistically, and thematically. Don't get me started on the music though, because if you were to ask me to pick between Hiroyuki Sawano, Kota Yamamoto, and Shirase Gisu, it's like having to pick a favorite child. Like, there's really no argument or comparison I can make for either of these artists because they're all so unique and iconic in their own ways. There's so much they have in common with how well the respective scores enhance the overall scale and sheer scope of Attack on Titan, but they have a lot that's different from one another. You can honestly swap out each composer's music and you're really gonna get the same effect. But because I'm obviously going to stick up for the live-action films, Shirase Gisu's score for Attack on Titan is honestly on par with Howard Shore's music in Lord of the Rings. I say that with no exaggeration at all. The orchestral and operatic pieces really complement the dark and brutal atmosphere of these films as they really emphasize the horror of the Titans. Yet there's also a lot of hopeful and uplifting tracks that are honestly very hype on their own. Easily the standout track is Temper the Wind. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't one of the greatest pieces of music of all time. Safe to say, my feelings for the Attack on Titan movies have become stronger than before. Over the years and after many repeated rewatches, I feel like I truly understand everything these movies were trying to accomplish, in addition to everything they get right. Yeah, it's a different experience from the anime altogether, but it's a very unique one. It's straightforward, but manages to convey a lot without feeling too compressed and gives you enough time to think, as it also evokes a lot of the same themes and ideas from the source material, despite coming off as very different at first. I don't know what happened in 2015 that caused people to have such a hostile response to these movies. Even to this day, thanks to big and popular anime YouTubers who, in all honesty, and I hate to say it, don't really know what they're talking about. I've seen so many people horribly misinterpret, misconstrue, and even straight up lie about the stuff that happens in these movies and how they were made. But that's going to be for another time. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video. It's been a long while since I've done anything Attack on Titan related, but I really appreciate those sticking around and being patient. It's been a little tough lately, but I'm doing well, and it's partly thanks to you guys and your support. But if you guys like what you see, feel free to sub up to the Patreon for early access to videos and exclusive content, but if not, I'm not going to trip. I'm cool with a simple like, share, comment, or subscribe, and yeah. Take it easy, y'all.